Dear friend, my name is Samuel Ayim of CTL Africa Leadership, and I would like to invite you to our free weekly webinar, The Leadership Platform. The Leadership Platform is your space for learning everything leadership and personal development. We have been holding the Leadership Platform for the last 3.5 years every week, and thousands of leaders from all walks of life have benefited from the rich lessons from experienced leaders. As the year goes on, we are going to bring you even more enriching content. We're going to have a session called Leaders Are Readers, where every month we will bring you a book that all participants will be encouraged to read. We will share the summary of those lessons for you to guide you. We will also bring you a session on meeting with a CEO, where we will bring an experienced CEO from any industry to share their story and their lessons as leaders. Again, we will bring you the extraordinary leadership stories, where we scout out for emerging entrepreneurs and leaders doing extraordinary things in different fields to inspire you to do better. And of course, we will bring you the normal topics in leadership and personal development that would enrich your leadership. So I hope you make a date with us, CTL Africa, every Saturday, 7 p.m. on the Leadership Platform, live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. On our YouTube, you can also check some of the previous lessons for free. Make a date with us, CTL Africa, on the Leadership Platform, this and every Saturday at 7 p.m.
Okay, hello, good evening, welcome everyone to the Leadership Platform. It's exciting to have you on for another edition of, great learning, great experiences. Wherever you're joining us in the world, we would like you to introduce yourself in the chat, and we'll be happy to announce you to the whole world. My name is Joy Bonsu-Schmutz, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I already see a hello from Catherine. Thank you so much for joining. All right, so please use the chat to introduce yourself. And we have a few things in the comments. Say share the broadcast, and don't forget to like and follow our channel so that everyone in your network can be able to benefit from this session. All right, so today is episode 178. Can you imagine? For over about three years plus, we've been running this platform, and today happens to be the edition of Leaders Are Readers. I hope you're excited to be here. Okay, so our book for today, we'll be reviewing Who Moved My Cheese, a very popular book. It's a story, it's a parable of change, and I just hope that you join us as we review this book. I don't know many of you who know the popular Blockbuster. So Blockbuster in the early 2000s, they were famous for renting of videotapes. People would go into the shop, rent videotapes, and there was something that happened as the evolution of technology was happening. They were very skeptical about moving to, digital streams and digital platforms until they had a big competition from the likes of Netflix, from the likes of Amazon, came to kick them out of business. So we're talking about change today. how important change is for you as a person and for your business. So I hope as you join us, you would share the stream with all your friends and family to connect with us. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. So we'll have our favorite uncle, the founder and the host of this platform. I believe that he's done so well in, pushing and pioneering this vision of having a space where we can learn together, share ideas, and grow as leaders. So I'm going to invite him up onto the screen, onto the stage for us to just kickstart today's conversation. Hi, Uncle Sam. Good evening.
Hi, Joy. Good evening. Thank you so
How are you,
much.
how are
Yes.
you
How are
doing
you
today?
doing? I'm doing good. I want to be like you, looking great.
Okay, yes, I'm doing very well. I actually cannot wait for us to go through this book. It's a very small, in terms of the volume, it's a very short read, but it's a very powerful book. And I know you're going to rub a bit of feathers because when you talk about change, everybody just gets like, hey, because we're all in our comfort zone, we like to keep to the status quo, we like to do things the way we feel comfortable. So I'm just hoping that we'll get some good lessons from this book. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And this is a very interesting book because it is in the form of a story. And
Yeah.
I remember the last time we did some change for a company, and we used this book. We created like a village scene by the fireside, and we had different people acting as different characters in this book, and then
Wow.
we did a chat around the fire at Sugakope, and it was quite interesting. Go back to the African scene where we used to tell stories. So this
Yeah.
book is about stories, and if you haven't read, we'll try to just tease out a few of the how the story is before we launch into it,
Yeah.
and I believe
Awesome. Awesome.
we'll all pick
Awesome.
some lessons, right?
Okay. All right. So once again, please share the broadcast, share the link both on Facebook and on YouTube, and just share this with your WhatsApp groups, your family and friends, so they can all join the session. All right. So Aksam, I'll leave the floor for you to take us away.
Thank you so very much, Joy, once again, and the team. Thank you, Sarah, and uh, and everybody who has been supporting this program. Yes. So who moved my cheese? And this year we've read a few books, and we're hoping that you're reading with us. It's for me personally, this has helped me also to reread some of the books that I've read and to keep me also disciplined. And I'm learning at the same time with all of you. So it's an interesting time, and this is an interesting book. So I want to encourage all of us to be part of the learning. So let's start this process and see who moved my cheese. All right. So who moved my cheese is, as Joyce said, it's a little book on a little story about four characters, and we will introduce them to you quickly. But it's a book on how to deal with change. Joy has just given us one example where, you know, one business could not cope. And there are thousands of such cases. You use mobile phone today and you remember how mobile phones started. Some of us, you use TVs and you will see the old TVs, the way they were built. And today they are not like that. Watches have changed. I mean, people spent years to develop the wristwatch. And today, well, not many wear wristwatch, not for the time, maybe just as a way of fashion. But otherwise, the function of the wristwatch has changed dramatically with the invention of mobile phones, and on and on and on we go. Around us with COVID and so on, life keeps changing. With technology, things are changing so fast. And this last 2 days, I was in a strategy meeting with a bank on which I'm a director, and we're reviewing, the bank's strategy. And on the side discussions, one of the things that came up was how AI, artificial intelligence, is actually taking over so many jobs. And we're talking with a lawyer, and I was joking that AI is taking over the work of lawyers today. Why? Because today people don't go to the lawyer so often for a contract. And even the lawyer himself was saying, even he as a lawyer, sometimes he's using AI to draft some of his agreements. So things are changing. Gone were the days where I remember we had a lecturer in when I was in the law school, and we're asking. I used to ask a lot of questions, and one day I asked a question, and he looked at me, and I know he was joking, but the call was this. He said, "Sam, you want me to answer all your questions for you? How will you come back and consult me when you leave this law school? When you go, you have to come back to me as your professor so that I know more than you." Today, even the students probably sometimes know more than their lecturers. So how do you handle change in your life at workplace? In Ghana, we've seen situations where overnight several banks were collapsed and several thousands of jobs were lost. How did people adjust? And I've met some Uber drivers who tell me they used to work in the bank, and today they are riding Uber. So Who Moved My Cheese is a very interesting, simple, short story that would help you to deal with these changes that are going on. All right. So we're just going to take a quick look at the book. We will share a quick on the author, share briefly about the story, and pick out a few lessons. But if you read the book, you would also develop your own, find out your own lesson. The book was written by Patrick Spencer Johnson, doctor, and this is an American physician and an author who died about a few years ago, 2017. He was 78 when he died, but he was very well known for his value tales books for children, and there are a number of them on different things: motivation, wisdom, and different series that he had. But probably Who Moved My Cheese is one of the most famous of his books, and has been on the bestseller for a very long time. Millions and millions and millions of copies have been printed and sold on this book. And if you want to check out, there are a few other books that you want to look out for from the same author: the 1 minute for yourself, 1 minute manager, yes or no, the 1 minute mother, 1 minute father, and so on and so forth, the 1 minute and father, and other books that Johnson has written. So you want to check out on this, and there are a number of videos also that you can check on YouTube. All right. So let me just give you the story. A year group of old students had gathered, and like I had a 40-year homecoming with my year group, I think it was last year, and we had our students coming from different places, had gathered and celebrated. And after they have celebrated their homecoming, they started discussing, and people were telling their stories about their life. And as I read the book, it came to me very live, because that was exactly what we did last year when we did our 40-year homecoming to our secondary school. And we're talking and we're asking, where is this person? Where is that person? And what has happened? What are you doing? And so on. Everybody was telling his story. And one of them was who after school just worked with his family shop, was telling the story about the shop and how the shop is not changing, and he's been like this, and other shops were coming. Then one of them, who was quiet,
I said, guys, I have a story. I said, what story do you have? And everybody was curious. What is the story? I said, I have a story that will illustrate everything that you guys are saying here. So everybody said, okay, come on, get us the story. And he says, well, the story is entitled Who Moved My Cheese? This is like Anna's song when we used to be in the village. So it's Who Moved My Cheese? Who moved my cheese? Well, maybe we will not understand cheese because we don't eat a lot of cheese here. So maybe something else. Like when I was in the village, we used to go into the forest and look for snails. And you walk through the forest in the night with what we call bobo and look for snails. So the story is something like that, that there were 4 characters who lived in a maze, which is a very complex, a zone where they're looking dark corners, places, and 2 of them were mice. One of them is Sniff, one of them is Scary. Those were their names. And 2 of them, they're just little like the mice, but they are more intelligent, and they call them the little people. And one of them was called Hem, and one of them was called Ham. So these were the 4 characters. And every morning they would go into the maze, this place, to look for cheese. That's what they ate. And they ran through the maze every day. Now, the mice would go, whenever they would go into the maze, they would just tie their walking shoes, their running shoes, around their neck and run through the maze and look for cheese. Sometimes they get some, sometimes they don't get some. The little people, when they get into the maze, they will just remove their shoes and put them somewhere, walk through the maze, and when they find something, they eat. Sometimes it was difficult, sometimes it was easy. Then one day, the mice discovered a station, a whole station of cheese, huge station. They call it the station C, which is the cheese station. And so they came and they took some, they ate, they went home. They came every day, they came. Now the little people came to join them there. And then they started settling there. They became very, very comfortable. The mice would always still carry their running shoes around their neck, and they would run, go, come, take some. The little people with their intelligence now began to settle down, make their home there, and they felt very comfortable, and they felt entitled that this cheese belonged to them. They would not go to the station as early as they used to do. They will stay, sleep, relax, and then leisurely go to the cheese station and enjoy as they can, play and have fun. But the little people, the mice, Scary and Sniff, will always do as they used to do. They'll just go as early as they can. And as they were going, they were watching around and they were checking and they were observing what was going on. But the little people had become so comfortable, they were not checking. One morning, Sniff and Scary goes into the station and there was no cheese. They look around and there was no cheese. And they look at each other, where's the cheese? Sniff said, well, I'm not surprised because every day we come, you see the cheese was finishing a little. So it seems it was over. So they said, okay, then let's go. They put their running shoes around their neck. Sniff started sniffing through the maze again and started moving. And Ham and Scary ran after him and off they went. The little people slept as long as they could, and then walk leisurely into station C for cheese. And today they came and there was no cheese. What? Who has moved our cheese? They asked. They look at each other. I said, but this is not fair. Who took away our cheese? Our cheese. This is not fair. They should have informed us. They should have told us they were going to move it. But no, we're going to go to court. This is not fair. They started arguing about with themselves, looking around, moving around the same station, that maybe somebody was just playing games with them and moved the cheese to some other parts of the world, so they move around. They stayed there the whole day arguing and complaining, and they didn't find any cheese, and they went home miserable. The next day they came back to the same cheese station C and looking for the same cheese, and they said no, and the cheese was against a wall. They started to take their hammers and chisel and started chiseling into the wall, that maybe somebody had moved the cheese behind the wall. They managed to make a hole into the wall, and there was no cheese. And they kept still arguing about themselves. Long story short, they argued for days. Then Ham started thinking and telling him, my friend, I think we should move on and look for other cheese in this maze. Ham says, what? No, I'm not going anywhere. This is our cheese. This is our cheese. It is not fair that they've taken our cheese. They have to bring it back to us. I am staying here. I said, but we are going to die of hunger. I said, yeah, but no, we are not going to die. We will stay here. They will bring back the cheese. I think they will bring back the cheese. They started analyzing and thinking and analyzing. Ham will raise another argument. Ham will say, no. After several days, they were just getting a bit weak. So Ham now begins to think. Meanwhile, Sniff and Scary, the little mice, had run and walked through the maze, found little here, and then finally came to another cheese station called the Station N, the new cheese station, where they found even better cheese, and they were enjoying themselves there. And we were wondering whether these little people, where are they? Well, they continue with their lives. So Ham says, hey, by the way, where are these mice? Ham says, oh, those mice, we are intelligent people. Maybe they are even dead. I mean, they would not know what to do. He said, but we don't see them. Maybe they've gone around. He said, no. Well, if they go, where are they going to find cheese? This is the only cheese station. Ham says, maybe they have smelled another place and they are gone. Ham says, no. They are not gone anywhere. Finally, after a while, little trying to persuade Ham and Ham refusing, Ham decided that he has to move on. And as he was going on the way, he was writing messages on the wall. And he was doubting. He was afraid. He was asking himself, did I stay here too long? Where am I going to get new cheese? He continued. While he'll find something, after some time, he'll find little cheese. Then he'll be thinking about his brother, Ham. Look back to see if Ham was coming. Ham was still at the old station. After a while, he got to a place, found some nice cheese, and came back to find Ham to say, look, I found some cheese. I'm sure if we go, we'll find some cheese. I can give you some little so you can eat. Ham says, no, I'm not going anywhere. How should I go? No. Short. Ham had to leave Ham and continue again in the maze. And after several days of wandering in the darkness, he finally came to cheese station N, found Sniff and Scary, who were there enjoying themselves. And then he sat down and enjoyed with them. Now, the lessons that Ham was learning as he was thinking and imagining is what have been put in this book about who moved my cheese. And so we are going to go through those lessons a bit quickly to see what can happen. Now you probably are in a situation or you've been to a situation and your expectations have been dashed. Things have changed. You woke up one morning and you're told that, well, the company is in a redundancy. You are in a relationship. One day, and you're planning, you're going to have a wedding and so on and so forth. And maybe you've even bought all the items and so on. And the next morning, your partner says, well, for ABCD reason, I think our marriage cannot come on. And since then, you've been distraught and you're not sure what to do with your life. And maybe you've not moved on. Maybe it's years now and you are still thinking. Maybe you are like me when one day I was preparing for my O-level exams, when my mother, who was a pillar of the home, I just was announced that my mother had died. So you may have lost the person who was taking care of you. Maybe you were younger, whatever age. Or maybe you are old, it's your husband and he's gone. And life seems to be crumbling upon your head. And you are wondering, what do I do? In our modern age, with technology changing so rapidly, and I tell my team that I'm BBC, but you're BBC, you're going to say technology has changed. It's social media. It's internet. You need to be able to do your meetings on Zoom, and you're still not used to how to do. How do you cope with change? And we're going to pick a few of the lessons from this story for you. Now, let me just summarize quickly for you the themes or the stages of how this book, or how to handle the framework within the book as to how to handle changes. So there are 4 stages in the story that I told you. The first phase was at cheese station C. Now, call that the comfortable zone. And for Ghanaians, they would understand that. Stage 1 of your life is the comfortable zone. Station C, where everything is fine, everything is rosy, life is fine, love is going on, you're comfortable, you're doing your work, and you're enjoying your company. Fine. So that's the first stage. And many of us, we find ourselves, we go through life, and from time to time, we come to this place, a place of comfort when everything seems to be nice and enjoying. Then, phase 2, the cheese disappears. Now, that is the stage where there is unsuspected, unplanned change. The loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, the loss of your investment, the loss of something. Technology has changed the way your work is done. And so many things are happening in the office, and there's a new strategy, there's a new CEO, and you don't know what's going on. And you're not sure what to do. I remember in my own corporate life, there was a time when a CEO that I started with changed and a new CEO came. And, like Sniff, when I saw the movements and the directions that things were going, people were being moved around here and there. I have been in my comfortable zone for some time as general counsel, company secretary. For years, I've been in this position. I could just open my eyes, close my eyes, and write board minutes, and it was fun. I didn't have to push. Then, with the new CEO, as things were moving, I think one day there was some distinct, I could hear some discussions about, we need to move some to some other place. And I think they said they wanted to move me to Nigeria or something. All right. By then, 3 years prior, I was preparing my exit. So immediately I saw all the changes. I decided that, So a lot of my colleagues were caught unawares. That is what happens when you're not ready. Then phase 3 is the adapting to the change. How do you adjust? For me, I decided that it's time to move on. So when I didn't even wait for anybody to come and tell me, Sam, move to this place. I just went to my new boss and I said, boss, I think I've done enough. You're a new person in this place, and I think you need time to bring in the people, your own team, so that you can move on. I've been here years. I want to give opportunity to somebody else to continue. No. I mean, at that time, I was a member of the bank. People dependent on me came to me, and you could have. They said no. The both he and chairman says no. Nobody is asking you to leave. Sam, stay. I mean, what's the issue? Where are you going to? Well, I made up my mind. Now, when the change happens, the adjusting to the change is where many of us have issues. And that's where we're going to spend some time learning the lessons. And that's where Ham and Ham had issues. But Sniff and Scary didn't have issues. They quickly adjusted and moved on. Ham and Ham, with their intelligence, started rationalizing, analyzing, over-analyzing, and playing the victim and asking questions. And I tell people, sometimes there are some mistakes that only intelligent people commit. The 4th stage is enjoying the new cheese. So we find out Sniff and Scary quickly moved on, and they got a new cheese and they started enjoying it. Ham and Ham stayed so long analyzing before moving on. Eventually, Ham gets to the station also enjoying the new cheese. So those are the 4 stages in the book, which represent also the 4 stages of change management. The comfortable situation, the unexpected changes that happen, adapting to the change, and getting a new lease of life or a new environment, a new opportunity, and so on and so forth. That is enjoying the new cheese. Now, again, by way of summarizing the book, 3 broad lessons: letting go of the past, embracing the change with a positive mindset, and actively seeking new opportunities. This is basically the summary of this story. When change happens, your best way of handling this is letting go of the past. And there are many of us who are still holding on to the past. Holding on to the past. Now, recently I had a coaching session with a client who had a good job and somehow had to leave the job, and the boss had promised certain things and was not delivering on what was promised. And she's left and she's going back and thinking of all the good things, the support and the work she had done for this boss. And now she has no job, and the promise that she's been given, she's not been given. And it was just eating her up. And he said, every time I think about this, I just feel like going mad. The lawyer says, well, let's sue her for what she had promised. And he says, yes, every time I think about it, I feel like I'm going to go back to, breathe the old wounds again, because every time I think of how I work hard for this woman and put her in this place, it's just so painful. Letting go of the past, having a positive mindset to embrace the future, and actively seeking for new opportunities. And there are some people that I've met who, since the bank collapsed, feel that they're waiting till maybe a change of government until their bank is restored, and then maybe they'll be called back to their bank. Now, if your bank was collapsed 8 years after, even if the license is restored, Nobody is going to call you back. And even if they call you back and you stay home for 8 years, what kind of banking are you going to do? My former boss used to say, when you took a leave for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, he says, if you leave your job for more than 2 weeks and you come back, will you still know your job? Okay, and you're staying home for 8 weeks. So let's zoom a bit more into some of the detailed lessons. And I'm going to list quickly 8 of them for you, and then I will invite my co-conspirators, Sarah and Joy, who have also read the book with me, and they're going to share. So how do you manage change? How do you handle change? Number one is a mindset. Embrace the change. This requires you to cultivate a positive attitude towards change. And in an organization, it's good to encourage open communication within the team so that we are prepared for change. Let people understand, discuss, ask questions. If this changes, what happens? Let people understand that things can change. Again, let's celebrate change. When there is successful change, when people bring new ideas, let's celebrate them. I've seen some organizations where people do not want to change. This is the way we do things. And the system is hurting the organization. Maybe people are even leaving the organization. One of the big areas for HR is compensation system, the hierarchical system. I mean, last week I had a session with a group of about 80 HR professionals, and we're discussing leading without a title. And I was challenging them on the previous book that we have read, on Shame's book on a leader who had no title. And I'm saying, as HR, how do you bring this culture of encouraging people who are performing and rewarding them without just looking at the position and title? And it was a very big debate, because this is what we've been groomed up to do, and we're not prepared to change positions, titles, hierarchies. And that is what we know. Can organizations change? We need to begin to think differently about change, but embrace the change. That's the first one. Number two is being adaptable. Encourage a mindset of continuous learning, and that's what we're trying to do on this platform. Encouraging continuous learning about new things that are going on in your industry, and providing training and resources for you. And when you are in a team, leading a team in a company, provide resources for the team to upskill their skills and competencies. And we should foster an environment of learning. Now, John Maxwell will say, if you are always at the top of your class, you are in the wrong class. You need to be challenged. We need to create a challenging environment where people are growing, where people are learning. And we encourage this environment. That way, people can be moved around. You work in a bank, you'll be working in the same department. You work in a company, you'll be working in the same department for years. Asked to be moved. I remember in my own life as a lawyer, I kept running away from law. At one point, I asked to move into investment bank. I moved into investment banking for 2 years. Then they called me back into legal. At another point, I pushed and I moved into commercial banking for 2 years. My boss did not talk to me for 2 years because he said that was not the best use of his resources. And sometimes companies, when you're good at a place, they will keep you there. But you have to think, if you stay there for the rest of your life, is that what going to serve you? So I moved into commercial banking. So by the time that I was leaving the organization, I knew investment banking, I knew commercial banking, and I knew my legal staff. In fact, when I joined my first job as a lawyer of the Ghana Stock Exchange, after 2 years, I realized that a lot of the discussions was around finance, capital markets, financial markets, institutions, equities, bonds, and this. And I had to review the prospectuses and these technical terms gave me a hell of time. I just took a year off, went to do an MBA in international financial management. I remember when I came back to the stock exchange, a general manager was telling all the finance guys, if you're not careful, Sam is going to take over your job. Today, when I sit in the boardroom and I sit on the bank board, I understand finance. I understand everything about the business. I tell them I'm not a lawyer. I'm a business. I understand the financial business and I'm doing it. So you have to be adaptable. Otherwise, when the change happens, you're going to be in trouble. Today, I'm doing something else, completely different from law, from finance, from everything else. Why? Because I had to adapt. The next is anticipate the change, and it's all going into the mindset. You need to be monitoring the trends and industry, the technology. Like Sniff and Scary were smelling and sniffing and looking at the environment. What we find is that Ham and Ham were so comfortable, they were not expecting any changes. And one day, the changes happen. So regularly assessing the effectiveness of the strategies you're using and encouraging your team members to share insights and observations and new ideas to prepare the team for change is so critical. So that is another way to handle change. The fourth point quickly is overcoming fear. Now, if you read through, you will find that one of the big challenges that Ham and Ham had was fear. The fear of the unknown. If we went into this maze again, where are we going to find cheese? So overcoming your fear requires us to create a supportive and a safe environment to help our team members to express their worries. When people have concerns, let us listen to them. We should coach and mentor individuals to navigate and overcome fear in environment. When people are raising issues, we need to listen to them. And we need to acknowledge and celebrate instances where individuals have overcome their fears. And somewhere in the book, he says, what you are afraid of is never as bad as you imagine. The fear that you let build up in your mind is worse than the situation that actually exists. When you stop being afraid, you feel good. And I remember it was Ham who was thinking to himself when he had moved out of the cheese sea station and in the maze, and then he was still not finding the cheese. But at one point he says, actually, I have hope. And now I've overcome my fear. And he just started feeling happy, even though he had not found anything. When you overcome your fear, you automatically begin to be happy. And that happiness is what then would help you to be able to move forward. The next is stay vigilant. Implement tools and processes for continuous monitoring. You remember, Sniff and Scary were always observing. Ham and Ham were not vigilant. And this requires us in organization to establish a feedback system. I'm a Toastmaster, and we say, feedback is the dinner is the gift for Toastmasters. Be ready for feedback. And that is what gives you the vigilance. Conduct regular checks to be able to know what's going on. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble. Next is to innovate and experiment. Scary and Ham were always checking and checking. That's Sniff and Scary. Ham and Ham were just too comfortable. So we need to set aside time to brainstorm. Think about what's going on. Think about the new generation, the ideas that are coming. Generate new ideas. And that is how we can be prepared and ready. Create a designated space or platform in our companies. Recently, I was in Nairobi and I visited Safaricom, and they have a whole team of people who are just thinking about the future of technology. And we need to recognize and reward innovation in our organizations, because that is where the future is. It is safer to search in the safer to search in the maze than to remain in a cheeseless situation. Look for new opportunities, because it says movement in the right direction, in a new direction, will help us to find new cheese. So if you are strapped in a difficult situation, things have changed, please do not give up. Do not give up. And let me give the last one, and I'll bring my team of conspirators on this book. Learn from the change. Learn from the change. It is important that when things change, we embrace the change, we adopt the change, but we should also learn from the change. What didn't we do right? John C. Maxwell has said that it is not experience that is the best teacher. As we popularly say, experience is the best teacher. It is examined experience. If things change unexpectedly, if you are not watching, if you are not taking stock, if you are not taking feedback, if you are not, and things change unexpectedly, and things go wrong, and they will always go wrong, what are you learning from that experience? What are you learning from that experience? So we need to look at the change and conduct post-change reviews, analyze what worked and what didn't work, encourage a culture of continuous improvement and implementing feedback that will help to pick the new ideas, provide opportunities for team members to share and discuss the lessons they're learning, especially when things go wrong. Instead of blaming and killing people for things that do not go well, I encourage you to learn from it. See what you are doing wrong. Laugh at it, change, and do better. That's what Spencer Johnson says. Now, a few quotes from the book as we come to the end. One of it says, "Life moves on, and so should we." My friends, you cannot stop life from going on. You don't always have control over what happens to you, but you have control over your response to what happens to you. You don't have control over all the situations around you, but you have control of choosing your attitude towards what happens to you. Life will move. So be ready to move. The next quote that appealed to me, and there are so many of them. He says, sometimes some fear can be good. When you are afraid things are going to get worse, if you don't do something, it can prompt you into action. But it is not good when you are afraid that it keeps you from doing something or from doing anything. So there are two types of fear. There's the fear that if I don't do something about it, things are going to go wrong. And here I remember when I was in the sixth form, my mother had died, and I went to the sixth form, and people started talking about Aluta, and people didn't want to go to the dining hall, and I had nothing in my chop box. And as these things go, and I just sit back and say, hey, now if I don't study hard with all these things and I go back to my village, what am I going to do? So when people were fighting and Naluta and we are not going to the dining hall and these things, I'll just go and hide in one corner. I'll borrow the books of all the dadabas and go and hide in one corner and just read. Because after every vacation, when they are in the cities and going on vacation classes, I will be in the village farming with my parents. And I'll ask myself, hey, if I don't do things differently, the fear of going to stay back in that village was stronger for me than not learning. So I would learn. So it is important. But if the fear is crippling you from doing anything about your situation, then that is not a good fear. All right? Okay. Being in the uncomfortable zone is much more better than staying in a cheeseless situation. Please remember, the next phase of your life is going to be challenging. You've lost the relationship. You are afraid of taking another relationship. But being in that uncomfortable zone is better than staying in a situation where there is nothing, where you remain defeatist. Yes, you've lost that job, and it's difficult looking for another job because of your age. And you have to start a new business or a new venture or do something. It's difficult, and I can tell you, having left the bank and starting a new business, I know it is difficult. It's very uncomfortable, but it is better than staying in a cheeseless situation. All right. Being the next one, which will be my final one, is a quote that the author takes from A.J. Crowley. And he says, life is no straight and easy corridor along which we travel free and unhampered, but a maze of passages through which we must seek our way, lost and confused, now and again checked in a blind alley. But always, if we have faith, a door will open for us. Not perhaps one that we ourselves we have thought of, but one that will ultimately prove good for us. Life will happen. Life is not going to be easy. It is not a straight path. And I say all the time, the shortest distance to a destination is not always a straight path. It is a maze which we have to go through, seeking our way. Sometimes we get lost. Sometimes we get confused. It's a checkered blind alley. That's life. But if we have the faith, one day something will happen. It may not be what you want, but ultimately what you find will be good. So this is the summary of the book, Who Moved My Cheese? The story of Sniff, Scary, Ham, and Ham, who were looking for their destinies. The maize represents the whole world. The cheese is the opportunity that you are looking for in your life. Sniff represents the part of you that is sniffing and looking for opportunities. Scary is the speed with which you are adapting to opportunities. Ham represents your part that says, don't move at all. Ham is the part of you that is asking questions. What can I do here? What can I do there? Challenging your fears and eventually moving on. This is my presentation, Sarah and Joy, on Who Moved My Cheese. Thank you very much. And we are open for questions after the short break.
Okay. All right. So let's do a quick commercial break and then we'll come back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much, Uncle Sam, for doing us the honors. I mean, people were talking about your storytelling technique. I think it was very wonderful. We have a few comments, and I'm just going to go back and look at it. So we have Mami who's joining us, Ebenezer Yeboatufo who's joining us from Strasbourg in France. We also have Liziane. Okay, Liziane says, I'm enjoying your commentary. Yes, Liziane said, is enjoy your commentary. We also have Abiola Bewa. She says, I work for UBA and good evening to the house. Thank you for joining us. We also have Victoria Tufo. She says, it's so wonderful to be here again. Frank Essien talks about adaptive change appears to be the most difficult type of change. Very interesting comments there. And then Aben also responded to one of the things he said. He said, yes, every change comes with challenges, but with resilience and faith, one could succeed. Thank you, Coach Sam, for this thought-provoking presentation. I'll hop on to Victoria's comment also. She says, we should learn to appreciate the little changes too and not take it for granted. Him and how, when they arrived at Station C, we're not paying attention to the small changes. We always need to prepare for change. Thanks for sharing the lessons. Thank you, Victoria, for also putting something in the comments. Sarah, do you want to just also look at a few ones going?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Joy. And Uncle Sam, you did us great honors. Thank you. And we continue with Victoria, who says that one of the best platform one can grow. Thanks always for sharing nuggets of wisdom. So
Thank you.
thanks to CTL being on it. Then I think when I drop down, I see something from King Queen, who says, wonderful presentation, sir. And Cynthia, her ladyship, Cynthia Mattison, says, tons of gratitude, Sam. God bless you. Wonderful. I don't see any questions here. So, Joy, what I will do is to throw it back to you and see what are some of the lessons that you learned when you were reading Who Moved My Cheese or Who Moved My Fufu.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. So for me, I would say everything that we read, I can just summarize it in four themes, and as Sam has also gone through. So the adaptability part of things, which is always the biggest first step to say that, hey, this is my reality, and I just need to accept it because change happens whether you seek for it or not. Then we have the proactivity. So the second theme for me was the proactivity bit where you have to really think, okay, should I move forward or backwards? You need to take some initiative, even before you get so weak and worn out. And for me, one part where I thought, this is being very human, these are things that happen to me all the time. You know very well that you would make the step, but then you wait so long. Our complex thinking, our overthinking, we wait till we are in the direst of situation before we make a move. We would have made the move anyway. So for me, I think that that's one of my biggest lessons, that hey, the moment you need to make the change, make the decision ASAP. Like don't overthink it, because it's you're going to make it anyway, you know. And the third one for me is overcoming fear. We've talked about it, and it's one of the biggest things. I mean, I don't know, but we fear the unknown. Okay, but I think that sometimes you have to get to the unknown to even know what exactly, to confront. But we all need to stand in front of our fear and just face it. And then the fourth one for me is continuous learning, because the point where Hal had a realization is because he had started testing his skills of moving through the maze. He was afraid, but he was testing his skills. Then he just realized that, oh, I mean, this is actually not as bad as I thought. So that's why CTL is always preaching personal growth. Last week we had Catherine share on continuous learning. So as you're getting more knowledge, as you're improving your skill, it's like that moment, it gives you more confidence to take the next step, because you can't face what you don't know. I mean, you can't face what you don't know. So those are the four themes for me. And I remember one of the most hilarious parts of the book for me was when the cheese was gone and him and Hal were like, what do they mean? Like they were just, there was this ridiculous comments they were making about the fact that, it's our cheese, maybe they'll
Yes.
bring it back, maybe, and I just found that, like, this is exactly what we do. Like, it's so funny how we think, because everybody's cheese is different. It could be money, it could be your career, and sometimes it's gone, but you feel somebody owes you something. You feel so entitled. And I like how Sam put it around, you know when you open his ears to hear all the little things that are going on, he said, "Nah, I know exactly what to do, because I'd been planning this 3 years ago." But then sometimes we make so much ridiculous statements around how people owe us, even to the point of chiseling the wall to find out whether the cheese was hidden in the
No,
wall.
actually, that was so for me. That was
That
tough
was
for
so
me.
hilarious. Like,
Uh,
really? I mean,
yeah,
who
we
is
go on
going to take the
demonstrations.
time? Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and there's so many lessons that are very practical to us today. I remember when I was leaving a very good corporate job, like that's my station C, comfortable, very well paying corporate job. And I felt like I needed to develop my skills. I needed to grow. And I'd applied for a school, I had gotten the school, but all the processes for travel was delaying. I remember one time I had a call from my dad, and my mom had told him that, I was literally resigning. You're resigning without a certainty of your travel even becoming, a reality, because you had to give in like a notice, and your visa dates, whatever, was also going to be in a month's time. So you had to make a decision. So I chose to put in my resignation. And I had a call one hot afternoon at work, and my dad was like, "Oh my God, like, I heard you've resigned, but what if you don't get the job?" And I said, "If I don't get the visa, yes, I'll find another job. If I don't get the visa, I'll find another job." And I know that answer wasn't very satisfying for him as a father, but then change was going to happen, and we had to embrace it. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and sometimes you need to be bold to face it. And that's how life is. So those were some of my learnings, Sarah.
Great,
Right.
great,
Let me
great.
pass it back to you.
Okay.
Okay, Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I could see all the four characters in me, right? All of us,
Mhm.
we have all these different parts in us, and some of us are. I'll say for myself, I'm a bit like a scurry, or I sniff. I sniff around a lot to see what is changing in the environment, and I adapt easily because I don't want to become a dinosaur to become extinct. So practically, practically, looking at even my life situation, I had planned to relocate quickly to Ghana. That was about 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago was my line to relocate to Ghana. But finally, I had a challenge and I had to adapt, that I found myself over here. And it wasn't easy, but I said, as Sam says in the book, that we have to embrace change and see what we can do about it and what actions to take and the choices that we make. Change will happen, but it's the choices, the way you respond to it, that really helps us. And one thing, the key takeaway that I am taking from this book is the fact that When Hal was going along, he was writing on the wall, which means he was noting things that he needed to change. So journaling and really keeping records of how you were doing things really helps so that you can go back and reflect on that. That was came out really strong to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Wonderful.
I
Wonderful.
can see,
Wonderful.
I can
Wonderful.
see,
Let's see.
yeah, yeah. I'm looking through
Okay.
the comments to see whether there are
Okay.
questions, and there's nothing here. But Mami Doku Otabil says, Coach Sam, thanks for the opportunity. And then One Day Born 2024 says, Dad Sam is a great man. I never met before cause any answers from him, because maybe any answers from him to my questions was a big lesson in my life. You are blessed. Many commendations, Sam. Joy, I'll let you take the next one from Lisiane.
Yes. So Lizzie-Ann also says, thank you guys for sharing your experiences. And we have one final one from Victoria. Victoria says, wow, lovely to hear your side of the lessons. Powerful women. Thank you, Victoria, for your comments.
Yeah.
Yes.
These are
Thank you for
the
your
powerful women in CTL. And actually, one of the areas where, I mean, here talking to parents, I mean, one of the areas where I think it was just today, I listened to Home Affairs a lot. One of the big discussions was, I mean, a young girl of 19 coming to the parents to say, I found a man I want to marry. and, and this was to be discussed by adults to say what advice would, and the parents are just like, how, what's going on here, 19, and almost all the counselors and the advisors are saying that no, you should wait, 19 is too young. And then I think it's Ochami Kwame was on the call, and he said, guys, all of you, your answers of no, 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 you are thinking about yourself. This is not your life. You have 20 or 30 more years to live. Focus on your own age, your own life, and let the long ones live. If you, up to from now to 19, you are not able to bring up your child in such a way that he understands life, what is 1 year of premarital counseling or 2 years more going to do to her? But the point that I'm making is that change, the transition, losing control of where we have control, losing control over your children, losing control over your health, losing control over your profession and things like that can be really, really challenging.
Yeah.
But the point is that life goes on. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. So the mindset, the preparing of our minds to accept that change is the only constant in life
Yeah.
Yeah.
is the most important attitude that we can adopt in the face of change. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to ask me for my last word, that would be my last word. Okay. That change is the only constant in life. You are either in a change situation now, or something has changed and it's causing you pain, or I can promise you tomorrow something is going to change. So you better get ready because it's going to happen. How are you going to deal with it? That is the most important. And so I want to thank you, Joy and Sarah, and I want to
Yeah.
thank everybody who has
So
commented.
before you
Yes.
go, there's actually a question which I think is a very important one. So someone, One Day Born, is asking if you, he said, if you're working with a company and you decide to change things, maybe the way things are going, but the leader is not giving you the opportunity, what do you do? Just
Okay.
before you go, yeah.
Now, when you work in an organization, sometimes you have limited opportunity to change the organization. Okay. Especially when you are not a leader. Okay. Now you have opportunity to communicate your views if you have. In some organizations, you may not even have that opportunity depending upon your position. And this is what I was telling the HR practitioners the other day. And I'm saying that when they go into the boardroom, they just call people who have titles and positions into the boardroom or the exco committee to discuss. But sometimes the solutions, the ideas that will come from people who have no positions in the organization can be even greater, better than what they are grappling about in the boardroom. So if we can have a system of organization where we are opening up discussions for people to share their views, we probably will be able to do better decisions instead of putting weight on people who have titles and position. And sometimes those who have titles and position and are supposed to be more experienced don't even have the solutions. So I can understand when you are in an organization, especially if it's not an open one, you may have limited influence. Just control what you can control. Do the change in the area where you are. If it is your job and you can do your job differently, do it differently. You can make suggestions, make suggestions. I mean, let me give you an example. When I came to the university, I joined a church. And when I joined the church, I found that the youth ministry was the young people were not being taken care of. And I was young. So what did I do? I wrote a proposal to the minister of the church. Fortunately for me, this minister was open-minded. So he took the proposal and says, Sam, this is something that I've been worried about. I've been thinking about these young people. I didn't know how to do it. But the way you've put this and the proposals you've made and the suggestions you've made, I think you're the only one who can implement it. So I'm going to give you the youth ministry. And that is how I took over the youth ministry. And over the next how many years, in fact, even if the leaders, sometimes they will just tell people when they have issues, go to Sam and his people. And we're doing all sort of things, revive the church and so forth. Now, so make suggestions, share your views, but by all means, don't make your boss look bad, because in the corporate world, you'll never be forgiven for making your boss look bad. Find an opportunity to share your thoughts in a respectful way. Find an opportunity to communicate your ideas. But if you feel so strongly and the organization is not prepared for it, if it is stifling your growth, then like sniff and scary, maybe it's time for you to move on. Because sometimes the way you can grow is to change your environment. Okay, so you can grow by either changing yourself within your environment, which is difficult, or changing your environment. But sometimes you change your environment and you don't change yourself. Because that is also very important. Your mindset, just like so many of us, so many Ghanaians and Africans have gone to America, to Europe and things, and they haven't changed their mindset. In fact, if we leave them in there and we brought all the white people to Africa, in 10 years, I mean, the people will be asking for visas to come back to Africa. And it's because people are not changing their mindset. So they'll get visa to Africa, because if all of us here don't change our mindset, we will not change Africa. If all of us change our mindset, we can change this place, and the white people will come back here and we'll make them queue at our embassies. So it's a matter of changing your mindset, changing the environment, making suggestions. And if it is not working, if you're not a boss in the corporate environment, sometimes you are limited. But by all means, make the suggestions. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sam, one last question that I want to find out. If it's the reverse case and you are the boss, right? And you have people who are really the hems and the house, and you take a long time, you also become like them, take a long time to fire them. What are some of the ways that you can go about them to overcome that for the leaders in the group?
Yes. especially in our part of the world, firing people is difficult. I personally have a big problem firing people, okay? But the problem, if people are not performing and people are not changing, if you don't take them out, it will have a negative effect on the team. It can demoralize the team. This is the law of the bad apple. When
Mm-hmm.
you read the 17 indispensable laws of teamwork by John C. Maxwell, the law of the bad apple, the people in the organization who don't want to change, who don't want to, adapt to, and who are not, particularly are not performing. If you are the leader, you have to have a discussion. You have to find ways to help them. And after you've done all you need to do, if they're not performing, sometimes it's not everybody who will go with you. John
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell says, it's not everybody who will take the journey. So
Yeah.
where you want to go, you don't have to go with everybody. You go with the people who are ready to go. So you are the leader and there's this direction you want to go. Some people cannot go with you because they don't have the competencies to go with you.
Yeah.
That is an ability matter.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, maybe they have the ability, the competencies to go, but they have the
Yeah.
negative attitude. They
It's
too,
an
they will
attitude.
not be able to go with you. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to analyze the people and find out, are they not changing because they just have a bad attitude, or they are not changing because they don't have the competencies to change?
Mm-hmm.
Easy to deal with the competencies issue, the skills issue. You can train people for skills, but it is difficult to train people for attitude. So
Yeah.
if the reason is bad attitude, negative attitude, then that attitude would spoil the whole soup, as we say, the bad nut can spoil the whole soup. So you better
Yeah.
take that nut out and go with those who are willing and ready to move into the direction. So that's what I would say. If you're the boss or the leader and you want to change, the people who don't want to change, you have to leave them and move on. But you don't just drop them, but help them, do analyze them before you make the decision to
Okay.
either drop them or change, give them the resources they need, because sometimes it's also resources and
Yeah.
their fears. What are their fears? Okay,
Yeah.
as a leader, you have to understand, what are they afraid of? What is it that is holding them back? Maybe they have legitimate concerns. Deal with those legitimate concerns. And after you've done all you can, then a time will come when you say, thank you very much. The bus is moving. Get off.
Great. Excellent. Beautiful. So over to you, Joy.
All right.
Okay. I think we've had some very good learnings today. Maybe just to close, there's a scenario, a story in the Bible that I wanted to just put side by side this. So we all know probably the story of Samson. This somebody who every day he gets up, he can just, flex his muscle and he can kill thousands. He can do amazing things, carry a whole city gate on his shoulder. Then, the source of his strength or his cheese is moved. And he gets up and he feels like he can just do what he does every day and it's not working. I hear people say, hey, now I'm in my 60s. I can't even sit as long as I used to. So he's flexing the same muscle, but he's not getting the results. So something has changed. But I like what he does after a while. So usually he would just pick a jawbone and kill as many people. But this time, when his final moment came, he had to call on a young boy to say, you know what? I cannot do what I used to do, but he put me in between two pillars and he did something new. I mean, he his normal was different, and I think that's a very powerful thing. That when we see the change happening, we really should think of new ways. Sometimes it means calling someone else to help you. It means bringing someone else into the picture. So I hope that this lesson helps all those who joined us today. I saw Portia sending us some shout outs, Portia from Ghana Medical, and then I see Yvonne Kwashi as well. Thank you all so much. I think all too soon we've come to the end of today's session. Just a few announcements, or maybe let me just go over, just take a quick recap. So change happens, anticipate change, monitor change, adapt to change, and enjoy when the change actually happens, enjoy the change. That's just to sum up all the wonderful lessons we've learned today. Sam, any last words from you?
Well, I've said what I have to say. Life goes on. By all means, things will change. You may not have control over what happens, but one thing you have control over is your own attitude and your own response to what happens. And if you're going to have a positive response to change, you have to be prepared. You have to have a mindset that is ready to accept change. You have to be a long-term learner, be ready to learn. And as John Maxwell would say, learn to fail forward, especially when things go wrong. Yeah. When you take the right positive approach, it may not be easy. Yes, it will certainly not be easy, but in the end, it is better to take a bold step to the unknown than to stay in a cheeseless station. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you so much, Uncle Sam. Thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of the Leadership Platform, Leaders Are Readers. Just a quick reminder. So we've talked about Live to Lead. Live to Lead is coming up very fast in October the 4th. And we are just encouraging as many of you as possible. Please don't wait till the last minute. We hear lots of people say, oh, let's wait. There's still time. October, there's still time. There's no time. Let's grab our group tickets now. So all you have to do is visit www.livetoleadghana.com. livetoleadghana.com, and you'll be able to get your virtual tickets, your in-person tickets, or a group ticket. All right. So please feel free to visit www.livetoleadghana.com to register. And next week we'll have another amazing episode. Time with a CEO, I'm thinking. Yes, time with a CEO. And then we're going to have another amazing learning session. I also want to remind you, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, I just encourage you to do that before you hop off. And we promise you that when you subscribe, we're going to make this show even better as you join us in the coming weeks. So please, we just wish you the best of the weekend and hope to see you again next week, Saturday. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
There's something in human nature that compels us to reach the next level. Whether you're working from a corner office or a kitchen table, leading a congregation or a classroom, measuring results in percentages or personal progress, we are all fueled by a desire to do better for ourselves and those around us. We've created an event to be the spark that ignites that desire into action. Live to Lead is a global event bringing people together from more than 30 countries around the world. You'll be challenged, encouraged, and inspired as you meet other men and women like you who are learning how to live their lives to lead others. Hear from some of the greatest leaders and influencers in the world. This year, for the first time ever, your host site will choose the content that will best serve you and your region and meet the values of your community. You will hear from a select combination of these simulcast speakers. John C. Maxwell is a #1 New York Times bestselling author and Horatio Alger Award winner. He was identified as the #1 leader in business by the AMA and the world's most influential leadership expert by Inc. magazine in 2014. Four-time Olympian Shantae Lowe is a world record-holding high jumper and gold medalist who has inspired millions with her story on platforms like ESPN and the O Network. Michael Jr. brings laughter and encouragement to audiences all over the world as he inspires audiences to discover and activate their purpose. His unique blend of comedy and motivation has earned him features on stages from TEDx to The Tonight Show. John Gordon has written 15 bestsellers, including The Energy Bus, The Power of Positive Leadership, and The Carpenter. which was one of 2014's top 5 business books of the year. His clients include Dell, Publix, Southwest Airlines, and several NFL, NBA, and MLB coaches and championship teams. Additional speakers may be international speaker and author Valerie Burton, Chris Robinson, who leads a team of more than 50,000 speakers, trainers, and coaches worldwide, Malcolm Gladwell, who has been called one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine, or serial entrepreneur and business expert Brandon Dawson. For the past 11 years, host sites around the globe have been hosting Live to Lead events in communities near you. Whether you run an organization with hundreds of employees like a hospital, bank, or school system, or you are a small business, church, or solo entrepreneur, your local host site is here to serve you and your teams. You can find the Live to Lead location and date in your area by going to livetolead.com and clicking Find a Local Site. This is your chance to grow you, to grow your leaders, and connect with other leaders in your community with a growth mindset. You never know who you will meet or how this day will impact your future. The only regret you will have is not being in the room. Live to Lead. Where in the world will you attend?